Maharaj to begin his session. So I pass it on to His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Te Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavari Pastyatya Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Because you're reading from a script about my life and devotion to Krishna, you check the math. If I was initiated in 1971 and it's now 2021, that means at least 50 years.
Yes, it's more than 40 years. Yes, Maharaj.
50 is more than 51 is more than 40 years. 51 is more than 50 years too.
Yes, ma'am. More than 50 years.
Okay. So when I received this request, as you can imagine, there were a series of other such requests in between Advaita Acharya's appearance day and Lord Nityananda's appearance day and Caitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day. So many places are doing the same thing. So that is a series. So I decided I would select the whole of Adi Lila, Adi Kanda and Madhya Kanda and discuss them chapter by chapter in anticipation of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. So we're discussing now this evening, chapter 5, which is in Adi Kanda, the childhood pastimes of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And a little background before we begin. The author of Chaitanya Bhagavat is Vrindavan Das Thakur. And Vrindavan Das Thakur, just a little bit about him, because it's important to get the flavor of how he presents. He was the son of Narayani. Narayani was the niece of Srivas Pandit, which means she was the daughter of one of his 3 brothers. There were 4 brothers who lived together like an extended family, and for one whole year, every day, Sankirtan was held at the house of Srivas Thakur. So she had Lord Chaitanya's association every day for a year, Narayani. And during one particular occasion, there was a celebration that took place. Lord Chaitanya wanted that Srivas not be in any anxiety for the safety of the, because there was an envious rumor. Some of us know about envious rumors. There was an envious rumor going about Navadvip that because of the loud Sankirtan at Srivas's home, the Kazi had been informed, the king had been informed, and the king was going to bring his soldiers and destroy Navadvip and mutilate all the Vaishnavas. So it was a rumor. It didn't happen. Lord Chaitanya, being omniscient, he knew that this rumor was going around, and he knew Srivas's concern, and in fact, anxiety. He wasn't concerned for himself. He was concerned for the safety of the Vaishnavas, because all the Vaishnavas were coming to his home and having this uproarious kirtan every day. So one morning, Nimai was walking by the side of the Ganges And on the opposite side of the Ganges, you saw some cows grazing. And he entered a mood of Vrindavan, Krishna, the cowherd boy in Vrindavan, and went swiftly to the home of Srivas while Srivas was in the middle of worshiping his Shalagram Shila. Nimai sat on his altar and ordered Srivas, worship me. Srivas, because Nimai was not showing the signs of a Vaishnav, he was showing the signs of a scholar. And he certainly wasn't showing the signs of divinity. But he showed his opulences of divinity in so many ways, explained to Srivas, this is just a rumor, but if it was true, I would order the king to not come. Otherwise, he and his soldiers are in big trouble. And if the king ignored, then I would go to the king personally and challenge the king. You get together all of your heads, your mullahs and priests and people that are the heads of your religion, and you order them to send animals into the state of ecstasy of love of God, and they won't be able to do. And I will then challenge the king, bring all of your animals and elephants, and I will bring them to the state of ecstatic love of God. Just see. And if the king was not persuaded by that and he still tried, with my Shudasan Chakra, I'd finish them all. They'd be finished. Srivas, have no fear, have no anxiety. I am the Supreme Lord, and I will protect you. And Srivas was stunned. And then he ordered Srivas, bring your niece, Narayani, who later became Vrindavan Das Thakur's mother. That's why we're telling this story. When just 4 years old, young girl, shy, she came forward and Lord Chaitanya ordered her, Narayani, chant Krishna's name in ecstatic love of God. And she began wailing and crying and calling Krishna's name and rolling on the ground and tears flowing from her eyes like she had become mad in love of God. And Srivas understood, yes, you're the personality of Godhead. I have no fear. My fear is completely driven away. So this became a celebrated event, how Narayani had received the Lord's mercy when she was so young, and later also received prasad from Nimai Pandit, later becoming Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So Narayani was married when she was very young, as was the custom in Bengal at the time. And when she was married, during her pregnancy, her husband died. And when her husband died, she went to stay at the home of her father and Srivas and his associates. Now, the birth date, listen carefully to these dates. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is well known that he was born in our Western calendar system, 1486 AD. And Vrindavan Das was born in 1507 AD. So that means he was just, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was just before he accepted sannyas, 14 plus 7, 21. For 3 more years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained in Navadvip. 3 more years after Vrindavan Das was born. So his association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, most likely, if whatever association that was for the 3 years when he was an infant. Following that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left for Puri. He took sannyas, went to Puri, not to return to Navadvip for the rest of his life. When Vrindavan Das was growing up, just a young boy, he was always wanting to go visit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he was young. And he eventually took initiation, Diksha, from Lord Nityananda. And under the order of Lord Nityananda, Vrindavan Das, wrote a book which was named at the time by Vrindavan Das as Caitanya Mangala. And Caitanya Mangala was written when he was in his 20s, 1533. He was just a young man. But so I'm going to be reading a certain pastime, chapter 5. Now I'm going to be reading instead of narrating because it's a wonderful pastime to narrate. But because I've been doing this, I will be doing this for a part of a series, I'm going to read. But I want to share several things about Vrindavan Das Thakur's writing style. It's totally spontaneous. It's he never had Lord Chaitanya's direct association, but he grew up in the association of those who always were in Lord Chaitanya's constant association. He's the very next generation of young persons who was in direct contact with those who were in direct contact with the Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was gifted in writing. He is known as the Vyasa Deva. Yeah. When he wrote the book Caitanya Mangala, following his first writing, Lochan Das Thakur wrote a book which he also named Caitanya Mangala, and by declaration changed the name of Vrindavan Das's book to Chaitanya Bhagavat, saying he's actually the Vyasadeva of Gaura Lila, as Vyasadeva compiled Krishna's pastimes. Vrindavan Das is the author, like Vyasadeva, who compiled Chaitanya's pastimes. So it became Chaitanya Bhagavat. His writing is just spontaneous expressions of love. As you hear, picture yourself riding in a boat in the ocean of prema. And as the waves rise, your boat rises. As the waves subside, the boat subsides. Another series of waves rise, and you're just in a boat on the ocean of Bhakti Rasa, and the captain is Vrindavan Das. And he's plying you through the ocean of Bhakti Rasa of Gaura Lila. It's really a nice image because that's the kind of writing style. And it's really easy to see that the pastimes of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, particularly his pastimes as a child, mirror or parallel the pastimes of Krishna in his childhood, because Caitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna himself. And so the rasa of Krishna's pastimes in childhood have such great similarity to the pastimes of Gaura in his childhood pastimes. Caitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as the son of Jagannath Mishra and Mother Sachi. He appeared as a Brahmana, a very, 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 very highly learned Brahmana and teacher. But in his childhood pastimes, there's the pastime of stealing, just like there was in Krishna's childhood pastimes of stealing butter. And the pastimes with Lord Chaitanya, the stealing was more in, we don't hear so much about Sachi and the elder ladies, Brahmanis. We hear about Jagannath Mishra. And Jagannath Mishra was involved in disciplining his son because his son was stealing and offending a Brahmana. So there's parallel, is the point. That in Krishna's Leela, when the elder gopis came to complain to Mother Yasoda about Krishna stealing, one of the things that Mother Yasoda said, you have so much butter in your home, why don't you just give him butter? And their reply was, we tried to give him butter, but he won't take it. He just likes to steal. And he finds clever ways and different ways to do his stealing. He is impossible. And they would laugh. And they were complaining, but they were enjoying. Now, similarity here. In this case, it's Jagannath Mishra comes to know of the pranks, the restlessness, that word is used often to describe both Krishna's pastimes and Lord Chaitanya or Nimai Pandit's pastimes. Restless, little boys can be, little children can be restless and do whimsical things and cause turmoil and trouble. And kind-hearted people are not bothered by that, and other persons become bothered by that. Prabhupada said this mischievousness is a sign of intelligence. But another parallel in all of this with Krishna's childhood pastimes is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu covering his divinity from his parents, and yet by his Yogamaya potency, and yet revealing his divinity to them. But because of his Yogamaya potency, they were not able to see. Now, obviously, this pastime somebody told, because Lord Chaitanya said, don't tell, but somebody told because we hear about it. So we're getting a picture of the personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, in the form of the devotee of Krishna, performing childhood pastimes where he is enjoying, his devotees are enjoying, the hearts and the minds of those who are devoted to him are enjoying. And he's churning it as the Lord appears to bring happiness to his devotees and to enlighten and attract us to the spiritual world, to the realm of love of Godhead. There's two parts of this chapter, the pastime of stealing the offerings of the Brahmana to offer to his deity. The first part is the marks of his feet in their house, because they didn't have wooden floors like we have here in the West. They had earthen floors, and the earthen floors showed the marks on the soles of his feet. But he was submissive to his father, just like Nanda asked Krishna, Mother Jasoda asked Krishna to bring Nanda's shoes. You know, that beautiful painting. Krishna toddled over to his shoes, put them on his head, carried them to Nanda Maharaj, and Nanda Maharaj is smiling from ear to ear, like a little boy doing a little service for his father. His father's so happy out of affection for his son. So in this case, it was bring his book, and Nimai brings his book. Anyway, that's one pastime, and their amazement that who is this? Where is these marks on the feet, on the floor come from? It must be my Shalagram Shila has manifested in the form of the Supreme Lord. How fortunate are we? The Lord has come to our home. But they couldn't see it was their son. And then this other pastime, the main part of this chapter, is a Brahmana who worships Shalagram Shila, and he chants his Gopal mantra, same mantra that many Vaishnavas chant and we chant, the standard Gayatri mantra, Gopal mantra. He was so devoted to the Lord. So the Lord revealed himself to this Brahmana. And initially, he wasn't revealing his true identity, but eventually, after testing him, he revealed his true identity. And the Brahmana became very attached to little Nimai, not revealing to Jagannath Mishra that your son is the personality of Godhead, because that would have been conflicting to the heart of Jagannath Mishra to see Nimai as God. It was parental affection all the way. Same as Gargamuni did not reveal to Nanda Maharaj that your son is the personality of Godhead. In this way, there's parallel, similar rasas and moods of loving exchange. And overall, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his mission was to deliver the holy name and awaken in the hearts of people in this dark age of Kali the innate and natural tendency for love for Krishna. So let the sound vibration enter your ears. I'm just going to read. It's not a long chapter. And appreciate the heart of Vrindavan Das Thakur. And through his association, just like he never saw Lord Chaitanya perform these pastimes, but he heard them again and again and again and again. It is his heart is floating in the waves of the ocean of Bhakti Rasa. So similarly, by our hearing, simply hearing, the waves of the ocean of Bhakti Rasa may rise in our heart also. Chapter 5, eating the mendicant Brahmana's offerings. All glories to the devotees of the beloved Lord Vishwambar, whose lotus feet are marked with the flag, thunderbolt, and goad. He is the Lord of all lords. In this way, the Lord secretly manifested various pastimes while residing in the house of Jagannath Mishra. One day, Jagannath Mishra called to Vishwambar, "My dear son, please bring my book." Hearing his father's words, Vishwambar ran into the room, and the sound of ankle bells was heard as he moved. Jagannath Mishra said, "From where is that sound of ankle bells coming?" The Brahmana couple began to look around. "My son is not wearing ankle bells, so where has the sweet sound of ankle bells come from?" They both considered the incident to be most strange, and they were unable to speak. The Lord gave the book to his father and then went outside to play. But when the couple went inside the room, they experienced another wonder. All over the room, they saw extraordinary footprints decorated with signs of flag, thunderbolt, golden banner. They both became filled with ecstasy on seeing those incomparable footprints. Their hair stood on end and tears flowed from their eyes. They both offered obeisances to those lotus footprints and said, "We are delivered. We will not take another birth." Jagannath Mishra said, "Listen, O mother of Vishwarup, go and cook some fried rice with ghee for our shalagram. Tomorrow morning, I will bathe our Damodar shalagram with Panchagavya. I can understand that our shalagram is walking around the room. That is why we heard the sound of ankle bells." Yogamaya. In this way, they both worshipped Shalagram Shila with great satisfaction, and the Lord smiled within. Now, please hear another wonderful pastime performed by the son of Jagannath. One most pious mendicant Brahmana was wandering to various holy places in search of Krishna. He's a devotee. He's searching for Krishna, and Krishna reveals himself to the Brahmana. He worshipped the Lord with the 6-syllable Gopal mantra, and he would eat only what he had first offered to Gopal. In the course of visiting the various holy places, that fortunate Brahmana arrived by providence at the house of the Lord. That matchless, effulgent Brahmana had a deity of Baal Gopal and a shalagram shila hanging from his neck. He constantly chanted the name of Krishna while he kept his eyes half closed and internally relished ecstatic love for Govinda. When Jagannath Mishra saw the effulgent Brahmana, he respectfully stood up and then offered obeisances. Jagannath Mishra received the Brahmana with the etiquette due to a guest. He personally washed the Brahmana's feet. Now, he's a Brahmana. He's the leader of the Brahmanas and all of Navadvip, but he doesn't stand on the virtue of his credential. He's doing the proper etiquette of receiving a guest. He personally washed the Brahmana's feet and then offered him a proper seat. After the Brahmana was comfortably seated, Jagannath Mishra asked him, "Where is your residence?" The Brahman replied, "I'm a wandering mendicant. I go wherever my restless mind takes me." With folded palms, Jagannath Mishra said, "Your traveling is for the benefit of the world. Today, I'm especially fortunate. Please order me and I will arrange for your cooking." Now, it was the practice of Brahmanas then, and even during Prabhupada's time, he spoke like this. Brahmanas would cook for themselves. Now, Jagannath Mishra is a Brahmana and his wife is a Brahmani, but they would prepare the kitchen. The Brahmana would cook for himself, offer to his deity, and that would be his prasad. That was the system. The Brahman replied, "Please, do whatever you feel suitable." Jagannath Mishra then happily arranged all sorts of palatable ingredients. Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi nicely cleaned the kitchen and kept all the ingredients ready for cooking. Satisfied with the arrangement, the Brahmana cooked and then sat down to make an offering to Krishna. Sri Sachinandana, the super soul of all living entities, then decided to give darshan to the Brahmana. As soon as the great Brahmana began to meditate, Sri Gaurasundar came before him. The Lord was naked, and all his limbs were covered with dust. His eyes were reddish, and his hands and feet were most beautiful. The Lord smiled and took a handful of the Brahmana's rice before it was offered. He then ate the rice as the Brahmana watched. The fortunate Brahmana cried out, "Alas, alas, this naughty boy has stolen the rice." Jagannath Mishra came there and saw Sri Gaurasundar was smiling as he ate the Brahmana's rice. In anger, Jagannath Mishra rushed to beat the Lord. The Brahmana, however, got up and apprehensively caught the hand of Jagannath Mishra. "Mishra, you're supposed to be a cultured Aryan. What's the use of beating this ignorant boy? Only one who can distinguish between right and wrong may be beaten. Therefore, I forbid you from beating this child." Jagannath Mishra then sat down in distress, holding his head with his hands. He could not speak or even lift his head. The Brahmana said, "My dear Mishra, please do not feel sad. Whatever is meant to happen on a particular day is known only by the Lord. Please bring whatever fruits and roots are there in your house, and I will eat those today." Jagannath Mishra said, "If you at all consider me your servant, then please cook again. I will make all arrangements. We have all the ingredients for cooking in the house. Please cook again. Then I will feel satisfied." So his naughty boy did a naughty thing and cook again. All the friends and relatives of Jagannath Mishra present there also requested the Brahmana, "Please be merciful to us and cook again. The Brahmana said, all right, according to your desire, I will certainly cook again. Everyone there was happy to hear the Brahmana's decision, and they immediately cleaned the kitchen. They quickly assembled all the ingredients, and the Brahmana began to cook. Everyone concluded, this child is very restless and may spoil the offering again. Therefore, please take him to another house until the Brahmana finishes cooking and eating. Sachi Devi then took her son in her arms and went to a neighbor's house. All the ladies there said, listen, Nimai, you shouldn't have eaten the Brahmana's rice like that. The Lord smiled with his moon-like face and replied, what is my fault? The Brahmana called me. Everyone then said, oh, deceitful Nimai, what will you do now that you have lost your caste? Who knows that Brahmana? What is his caste? Where is he from? Now that you have eaten his rice, how will you maintain your caste? Meaning, the status of proper conduct for a Brahmana. Because in these days, proper conduct was to be followed and was followed. So little children may make transgressions, but they're, admonishing him gently to have him not be so naughty. The Lord smiled and said, I'm a cowherd boy, and I always eat Brahmana's rice. How can a cowherd boy lose his caste for eating a Brahmana's rice? Saying this, the Lord looked at everyone and smiled. In this way, the Lord revealed his identity while speaking deceptively. But by the influence of his Maya, no one could understand him. Everyone laughed upon hearing the Lord's explanation. No one wanted to set him down from their embrace. As the Lord smiled and sat on various people's laps, whoever held him merged into an ocean of bliss. Meanwhile, the Brahmana finished cooking again, so he sat down to make the offering. In meditation, the Brahmana called Bal Gopal to eat. And Lord Gaurasundara, the Super Soul, immediately came to know this. Putting everyone into illusion, the Lord secretly came before the Brahmana with a smile on his face, unseen by others. The Lord then took a handful of rice and ate it as the Brahmana watched. The Brahmana immediately cried, same as he did before, alas, alas. And the Lord, after eating the rice, fled away. Enraged, Jagannath Mishra got up, took a stick in his hand, and chased after the Lord in anger. Mother Yasoda with her stick, right? The Lord fearfully fled into another room with Jagannath Mishra chasing behind and chastising him in anger. Jagannath Mishra said, just wait and see what I'll do to you today. Although I am an Aryan, you consider me a fool. Who has such a great thief for a son? Saying this, Jagannath Mishra chased after the Lord in anger. Everyone present tried to restrain Mishra, but he said, leave me alone. Today I'll beat him. Then they pleaded, oh, Mishra, you are by nature magnanimous. What kind of intelligence would you exhibit by beating him? He doesn't understand what is right and what is wrong. Whoever beats such a child is a great fool. He will not learn simply by being beaten. Children are all restless by nature. At that time, the mendicant Brahmana hastily came there, holding the hands of Jagannath Mishra. He spoke, listen, Mishra, this child is not at fault. Again, whatever is meant to happen on a particular day will certainly take place. Today, Krishna has not allowed me any rice. I'm telling you, that is my realization. Feeling distressed, Jagannath Mishra was unable to raise his head. He looked at the ground and simply lamented. but there's a new chapter. Nimai had an elder brother. You know, when you hear from a little boy, I mean, Nimai was really little. Vishrup was also a small boy. You hear a small boy with a gentle voice making an appeal. It's heart melting. It worked. At that time, the most powerful and effulgent Vishwarup came there. There's no comparison to the matchless sweetness of Vishwarup's bodily limbs. A Brahman thread hung on his shoulder. He is the source of the Brahman effulgence, and though in a different form, he is directly Lord Nityananda. Now, there's some commentary, but not exactly Lord Nityananda, and not exactly not Lord Nityananda. Vishwarup, the elder brother. It's one of those Leela manifestations. The purport of all scriptures is eternally manifest on the tongue of Vishwarup. Thus, he is always engaged in preaching devotional service to Lord Krishna. Seeing his extraordinary beauty, the mendicant Brahmana was struck with wonder and stared at him continuously. The Brahmana then said, "Whose son is this?" The people replied, "He's the son of Jagannath Mishra." The Brahmana was satisfied to hear this. He embraced Vishwarup and remarked, "Glorious are the father and mother of such a son." Vishwarup offered obeisances to the Brahman. He then sat down and began speaking words that were like a stream of nectar. "Whoever receives a guest like you has attained great fortune." On that auspicious day, although you are self-satisfied, you travel about in order to sanctify the world. It is our great fortune that we have a guest like you, but we are also unfortunate because you are fasting. He didn't blame his brother. He just said, "Please don't fast. If you fast while staying in someone's house, it will simply bear inauspicious fruits," right? For the host. If the guest doesn't eat and fasts, it's inauspiciousness for the host. "I'm greatly satisfied on seeing you, but I'm very sad to hear about what has happened." The Brahmana said, "Please do not feel sad. I'll eat some fruits and roots. I live in the forest, so where can I get rice? I am accustomed to eat fruits and roots in the forest. I seldom eat rice, only when it is available. I have become so satisfied by seeing you that I feel as if I've eaten millions of meals. Please go bring any fruits, roots, or prasad that you have, and I will eat that today." Jagadra, however, did not say anything. He just held his head in his hands in distress. Vishwarup said, "I hesitate to speak, but I know that you are an ocean of mercy. It is the nature of saintly persons to be distressed on seeing the suffering of others. They always try to make others happy. So, if it is not too much trouble, please cook for Krishna again. Then my family's distress will be vanquished, and we will attain transcendental happiness." The Brahmana said, "I already cooked twice, yet Krishna has not allowed me to eat. I have therefore understood that he has not allowed any rice for me today. If Krishna's sanction is not there, why should we endeavor? One may have unlimited foodstuffs at home, but he can only eat with Krishna's sanction. If Krishna does not allow anything on some day, then even by endless endeavor, one will never achieve a thing. It is practically the middle of the night. Is it proper to cook at this time? Therefore, do not make any further arrangement for cooking today. I will simply eat some fruits and roots." Vishwarup said, "There will be no fault if you cook. Everyone will be satisfied." Saying this, Vishwarup caught hold of the Brahmana's feet, and everyone else also requested him to cook. Enchanted by Vishwarup, the Brahmana said, all right, I'll cook. Everyone expressed their satisfaction by chanting the name, Hari. He probably said, Hari Bol. Then they quickly cleaned the kitchen and brought all the ingredients for cooking. The Brahmana then began to cook, and everyone escorted Nimai to another room. Jagannath Mishra sat in front of the door where the child was detained. Everyone said, lock the door from the outside so he can't get out. Jagannath Mishra said, that's a good idea. Thus Jagannath Mishra and others sat outside after latching the door. From inside the room, the ladies said, don't worry, Nimai is sleeping. He won't do anything now. As they guarded the child in this way, the Brahmana soon finished cooking. The pious Brahmana prepared a plate for offering and then sat in meditation and offered food to Krishna. Guess what happens? The Super Soul, Sri Sachinandana, knew everything. He had already decided to give darshan to the Brahmana. Thus, by the will of the Supreme Lord, Nidra Devi, the goddess of sleep, deluded everyone into deep sleep. Sri Sachinandana then went to the place where the Brahmana was making his offering. On seeing the child, the Brahmana cried out, alas, alas. But no one heard him, for they were all fast asleep. The Lord said, O Brahmana, you are indeed magnanimous. You call me, so what is my fault? You chant my mantra and invite me, so I cannot resist coming to you. You always desire to see me, so here I am. Listen to this. At that moment, the Lord exhibited a wonderful 8-armed form to the Brahmana. In 4 hands, he held Kanch's club and lotus. In 1 hand, he held a pot of butter from which he ate with another hand. Then, the 2 other hands, he played a flute. He was decorated with the marks of Srivatsa, while the Kastuba gem and a jeweled necklace hung on his chest. All his limbs were decorated with jeweled ornaments. His head was decorated with a garland of fresh gunja seeds and a peacock feather. His moon-like face was beautiful, with red lips. The Lord smiled as he rolled his eyes. His Vajjayanti flower garland and shark-shaped earrings swayed to and fro. His lotus feet were adorned by jeweled ankle bells, and all darkness was dissipated by the shining of his toenails. The Brahmana also saw the abode of Vrindavan, filled with wonderful kadamba trees and the chirping of various birds. He saw cowherd boys and girls in all directions. Indeed, whatever he had meditated on, he saw manifest before him. Whew. Seeing the extraordinary opulence, the pious Brahmana fell unconscious with ecstasy. Lord Gaurasundra, the ocean of mercy, then placed his lotus hand on the body of the Brahmana. By the touch of the Lord, the Brahmana regained consciousness, though in ecstasy, he remained inert and unable to speak. The Brahmana repeatedly fell unconscious to the ground and then got up in great jubilation. His body shivered and perspired. His hair stood on end. The flow of tears from his eyes resembled the Ganges River. The Brahmana then caught hold of the Lord's lotus feet and began to cry loudly. Seeing the Brahmana's humility, Sri Gaurasundra smiled and addressed him. The Lord said, please listen, O Brahmana. You have been my servant for many lifetimes. You always desired to see me, therefore I have come before you. In a previous life, I gave you darshan at the house of Nanda Maharaj. Don't you remember that? When I appeared in Gokula, you also joyfully visited the various holy places. By providence, you became a guest one day at the house of Nanda Maharaj. At that time, you offered rice to me in the same way. And after I ate your rice, I showed you the same form. In this way, you have been my servant birth after birth. For other than my servants, no one can see this form. I have thus disclosed to you confidential topics that should not be revealed to anyone under any condition. Obviously did. As long as I remain in this incarnation, you should not tell anyone the secrets I have told you. Otherwise, I will kill you. Will happen later. I have incarnated to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement, and I will preach the process of chanting throughout the world. I will freely distribute the love and devotion that is desired by Brahma and others to each and every house. Love of Brahma desired was, he desired the love of the residents of Vrindavan. That's what he desired. That's in his prayers in chapter 14. That's Lord Chaitanya's mission, is to give that. If you remain here for some time, you will see many such pastimes, but do not disclose things to anyone. In this way, after mercifully pacifying the Brahmana, Lord Gauranga returned to his room. The Lord then returned to sleep as a child, and by the influence of Yoga Nidra, no one awoke. The Brahmana's entire body was filled with ecstasy after seeing this wonderful manifestation of the Lord. He smeared the rice all over his body and began to cry as he ate. He then danced, sang, laughed, and repeatedly cried out, Jai Bal Gopal. Everyone woke up by the loud cries of the Brahmana, who then controlled himself and washed his hands. Seeing that the Brahmana had eaten without disturbance, everyone was greatly satisfied. The Brahmana thought, quote, perhaps I should disclose to everyone what happened, so that they may be delivered by coming to know the Supreme Lord. The Lord who is sought after by Brahma, Shiva, has advented himself in this Brahmana's house. Let me tell them this very child is the Supreme Lord, so they may be delivered. But the Brahmana feared breaking the Lord's order, and therefore he did not disclose the incident to anyone. After recognizing his Lord, the Brahmana secretly remained near the Lord in Navadvip. He would beg alms here and there and come daily to see the Lord. One who hears these wonderful topics that are confidential to the Vedas certainly attains the lotus feet of Krishna. May you all attain the lotus feet of Krishna just by hearing this wonderful pastime. The topics of Adikanda are like a flow of nectar, for these topics describe Lord Narayana's pastimes. Sri Gaurasundar is the Lord of Vaikuntha and the crown jewel of the predominating deities of all the planetary systems. He is the beloved Lord of Lakshmi and Sita. They who in Treta Yuga appeared as Ram and Lakshmana and performed various pastimes like killing Ravana, who in Dwapara Yuga appeared as Krishna and Balaram and performed various like diminishing the burden of the earth, who all the Vedas addressed as Mukunda and Ananta. They have now certainly appeared as Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul. I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. So you can see he's ecstatic, Vrindavan Das. And as we mentioned, he had never directly seen Lord Chaitanya or seen the pastimes that he's describing, but he is describing them as if he was in the room or had direct firsthand experience. And we're left to just ponder or enjoy meditation upon the happiness that was felt by the Brahmana. Of course, the parental affection of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi, and the others who were in the association of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi, and how they felt towards Nimai. very, very similar to Krishna's childhood pastimes. Of course, he's Krishna himself, and he has a mission. And his mission is to deliver love. So he said to the Brahmana, this is what I'll do. That kind of love that Brahma desired, I will distribute freely throughout the land. So this is, we're honoring, later this month, we're honoring the appearance day of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And as I was sharing with some audiences, for those of us that are born in America and don't know nothing about nothing when it comes to Vedic culture and teachings, hearing the pastimes of Krishna and Ram in Ramayana was all very new. So similar to many of you who are born in India or from Indian families, you know those pastimes and stories very, very, very well, mostly. But the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda are not so well known in the world today. And so they're charming and they're new. And how do we repose faith in these wonderful narrations? Imagine the situation, the seat that I sit in, the shoes that I wear. And how do we understand anything that's of the transcendental realm? We understand in the same way that Brahma describes from the authoritative sources, and Vrindavan Das Thakur is one authoritative source. These are the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he performed in the house of Jagannath Mishra. How do we know? We take from the authority of those great souls, that Vrindavan Das Thakur being one of them. The collective authorities of his time, they all knew of his book and the contents of his book, and they accepted. So we accept. How do you know it? How do you know anything? Pramana. How do you know anything? From the evidence of Shruti, Shabda, Pramana. And by hearing and hearing, an additional effect of hearing and hearing is the cleansing of the heart and awakening of transcendental love of God follows. These are the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, there's certainly some cultural points within these narrations that we can gain benefit from. How elevated brahmanas converse with one another, how receiving a guest in one's home is done properly. But the most important, aside from the cultural subtleties, is the natural reciprocation that Krishna provides for those who are eager, for his association. He provides reciprocation according to our affection for him. Okay, so that's our topic for this evening. Now, this class is dedicated to the Boston Temple. So I think we'll take your questions. We have some people assembled with us in the room here, but we'll take your questions first. Let's see how it goes. Nearly 1 hour.
Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, if you don't mind, can I ask a question?
That's what we're here for, yeah.
Recently heard a pastime of Lord Chaitanya when he was still Nimai, where he played in the Ganges and played pranks with the Brahmanas and the women over there. One such prank was to actually pull the feet of the Brahmanas as they were meditating. This particular pastime really touched my heart. So I was just wondering, how do I understand the fact that the whole universe is trying to get a little bit attraction towards his feet, but the Lord himself is pulling the feet of the Brahmanas in that river?
The pastimes of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu are very deep and profound. So, for example, while he is the Lord, he's performing the activities of one of us, a Brahmana young boy who's naughty, or this word they use is restless, mischievous. So he's doing these mischievous pastimes for the pleasure of his devotees. He doesn't need anything, but he's happy to take the dust or the Ganges water-soaked feet of the Brahmanas. He's happy to do that because the Lord likes the Brahmana devotees. Namo Brahmanya Devaya. So he's performing mysterious, deep, profound pastimes, one after the next, after the next. The Lord, who is like a devotee or like a living entity, but not. It's for his pleasure. For his pleasure. Why does he do what he does? For his pleasure. And there's some instructive lesson. Okay.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Any other question?
With pastimes, generally questions are not so common. That's my experience. But anybody would like to add something or discuss something, that's fine. If you have nothing online, I can invite persons who are in the room here to see if they would like. Oh.
This is Radha.
Hare Krishna.
Are there any other pastimes? So I'm relating Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya. They have like similar pastimes. So is there any other incarnation that has those kind of pastimes?
Well, we don't hear so much about Lord Ramachandra's childhood pastimes. There's very, very, very few verses in Valmiki Ramayana about Lord Ramachandra's childhood pastimes. There's extended description, as you know, of Krishna's pastimes. And the other incarnations of the Lord, of course, Vamana was a dwarf Brahmana, but we don't hear very much about his childhood. We know who his mother and father were, but there's not elaborate description of childhood pastimes that are coming to my mind of other forms of the Lord.
So basically Lord Ram, Krishna, Balaram, and Lord
Krishna,
Chaitanya.
Balaram, and Nityananda and Caitanya Mahaprabhu.
Okay.
Now, as I said, Lord Ramachandra, there's very, very little.
Okay.
Why? I don't know, but there's very, very little. And it's even explained by our acharyas. There's very little. And one who's interested, they say you have to go to Krishna's childhood pastimes. But childhood pastimes, very little description in Ramayana.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So we're going to turn to the room since there's silence over there on the Boston side.
Okay, Maharaj. I think that's fine.
Anyone here would like to discuss something? Well, it's a room full of silence over here. No, there's something. Go ahead.
Anyone from Boston?
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
You're on. You're on.
as you're narrating this, reading the pastime, it's really, really, beautiful and heart touching. Like how the Brahmana.
Just hold it closer because the volume is already loud. Just hold it closer. Your voice is very soft. It's hard to hear.
So the Brahmana, when he was the Lord Chaitanya was when he's offering, Lord Chaitanya was coming and accepting, but being so learned and he's also in Krishna Lila, the associate of the Lord. He cannot really understand that the Lord is coming and accepting. So what to speak of my own self? So being so kind, he always reciprocates whatever the little things that we're trying to render that service by Guru and Krishna's mercy, but might not be able to understand. And sometimes it so happens that that why some of the things are going wrong, and that kind of a feeling. And but still after that, there is, because of the knowledge, hearing about the principles of devotional service, I can relate it that yeah, there is a hand of Krishna, but not really can stay without overwhelming.
I think I've got, you're making a comment. You're asking, how do we apply what we just heard in our practical lives? And in our practical lives, we make mess ups or things aren't going well. And are we, how are we to apply this teaching? Well, we're not in pastimes. It's certainly not the same. But the hand of Krishna in our lives is there nonetheless. And we're through the medium of devotional service, we're being given opportunities to connect with Krishna through the medium of devotional service and try to make our best effort, at least, to please Krishna. So if things are not going right, it doesn't mean it's a lila between us and Krishna. But we can learn things about the importance of staying fixed in devotion despite obstacles, staying fixed in trying to please Krishna despite things not going right. So it's not a one-to-one correlation between what happens here with this mendicant Brahmin and ourselves, but there are principles that we can learn. Krishna is watching, Krishna is observing, Krishna is appreciating, Krishna is reciprocating. In his own way. And he'll help us to overcome whatever mistakes we may make, etc. And reciprocate. That's the main thing. Okay. We have one more question over here. What's that? What? So they ended the call?
No, we are here, Maharaj.
Go ahead, you say. There's darshan of the deities for those who wish. Is that the idea?
No, I did not say anything. We did not say anything. After your talk, there'll be darshan, Maharaj.
Okay, fine. Okay.
We are not.
We have one more question over here.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. So I think hearing this story, I'm trying to relate to Krishna's pastime. Once he is hungry, Krishna and his friends go and ask Brahmanas for the food on it, then they don't give it, but
yes,
his wives give him feed the food on it.
Different pastime.
Different, okay. And I think the other question I have it, Maharaj, I think we hear about Gaura Harati, which related to
You hear about what?
Gaura Harati, written by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, right?
Gora Arti. Okay.
Right. So do we, Vrindavan Thakur, did he written any songs which are Sankirtana? If he has meditating Sankirtana Yajna, right? So any songs which he has
No.
written on it?
Other books which Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote, the ones that I'm aware of, there's a Nityananda Astaka and there's a Nityananda Charitamrita. Those are two books that he also wrote, and they're translated, but I don't know of any songs. Okay.
The reason I'm asking, because it's Sankirtana Yajna, right? The songs where Lord might have sang on it, those songs he might have written.
If I run across any songs, I'll let you know. I don't know if I can sing them for you, but I could let you know that there's some songs.
But these pastimes are very sweet. Maharaj.
Very sweet.
Very sweet.
Very sweet.
We, as you said, we have stories. We in our childhood days we had learned about Krishna's pastimes a lot, but not these pastimes. But hearing these pastimes now, it is relating to it, but it's very sweet to hear.
Yes, it is. And as one becomes attached to Lord Chaitanya, where that attachment is going is the attachment of love of God being profusely distributed everywhere. That's where that attachment to Lord Chaitanya goes. It's very, very, aside from sweet, it's also, it leads to the highest attainment. Anything else in the room? Yes, your wife?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Do Lord's parents will know about him that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead anytime in their life, or he did not reveal it?
I could follow the question.
Do Chaitanya
Mahaprabhu,
parents, do they know about his lordship? Or
do they are Jagannath Mishra and Sachi aware of his divinity?
Yeah.
That's your question? No.
No.
Not like Nanda and Jasoda. No. They saw the footprints and they think, oh, this is Shalagram is walking around. That's where the ankle bell sound came. It's Shalagram. So they don't have that understanding. They don't have that understanding. It's parental affection covered with Yogamaya.
Hare Krishna. I think we lost him. I do not know.
Appears with his associates. And so this is one of his associates. Now, what happens after this pastime? Well, you're my eternal associate. So ever Lord Chaitanya as he is, enjoying pastimes with the Lord, including in the spiritual world. Okay. Prabhupada. Oh, there's something. We have 2 online questions here, and we're going to end.
Then ask on the YouTube.
Go ahead, read.
Should the devotees of
Microphone. No, just make it closer to your mouth so we can hear you better. And they can hear you online. Closer to your mouth.
Guru Maharaj, should the devotees of the Mahaprabhu are to be considered in the covering of Yogamaya like Yashoda Mata?
Yes, generally speaking. Now, there are exceptions, and there are exceptions. We could list the exceptions, but for the most part, Lord Chaitanya wanted that person see him as a devotee, not as the Lord. Some understood his divinity, of course. Nityananda understood his divinity, of course, and others, some. But for the most part, he was concealing his divinity.
There is one more question.
Go ahead.
Morning class, Maharaj.
Please.
From Sanchari Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, did Lord Chaitanya know from childhood he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or was his circumstance similar to Lord Ramacandra?
No, the Lord knows. Ramacandra knew, Krishna knew, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord is omniscient. It's not like he became enlightened one day or gradually. He's omniscient. The Lord is omniscient. He's all-knowing, not becoming anything.
We have one more online question. Is Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat two different holy books?
Yeah, they're about the same topic, Lord Chaitanya, and they're two different authors, just like there's different Ramayanas. There's even different Mahabharats. But it's about the Supreme Lord. So they're in their holy books. Okay. Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, on behalf of entire ISKCON Boston, we appreciate and express our deepest gratitude for your time and for your association. Thank you, Maharaj, once again.
Thank you for the invitation. Glad to be with you all, virtually at least.
Yes, thank you. We are indeed, it's a blessings. Hare Krishna.
I hope you have a really wonderful session, all these classes that you're planning for leading up to Lord Chaitanya's appearance day.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you for your blessings. We are trying to meditate on as much as possible on the Gaur Lila and Lord Chaitanya's associates and Lord Chaitanya's pastimes.
It's a very special time, and I
Yes.
hope you enjoy it together.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, we'll have
Hare Krishna.
we'll have Gaurati from our temple. So kindly stay there. And after following that, we'll be having a Saturday night. Hare Krishna.
Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasthani Nirvishesha Sunya Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnu Padma, Jaya Jaya Jaya